Can I have your attention for a minute? I'm gonna start. Guys, come here to the shade, everyone. Did you see the sign when we walked in about this place? What was written there? The town of Jesus. Where did Jesus grow up, guys? Nazareth. So why do we have a sign in Capernaum that is not in Nazareth, saying the town of Jesus? Come here. Thank you, my love. Can you please read this? Over here. This is from Mark. Yeah.
Is he not the carpenter, the son of Mary, and the brother of James and Joseph and Judas and Simon? And are not his sisters here with us? And they took offense at him. Jesus said to them, a prophet is not without honor except in his native place and among his own kin and in his own house.
Thank you. Guys, after people of Nazareth are blaming him to be a prophet, he's moving here. Why here? Why not somewhere else on the Sea of Galilee? Sorry? Who accepted him? Fantastic. Correct answer. There is one man that lives here, two men actually, that has to do with the story of Jesus, and they live here in Capernaum, and he comes and stays with them. Who are these guys? Peter and? Very good. Guys, he moves here to Capernaum, and what we're going to see right now, we're going to go into the church and see the first church in the world. The first place that the followers of Jesus, the Judeo-Christians, started praying. So follow me, please, guys. Over here, up the stairs.
In the coach.
That are visiting the church like us. And because of that as well. Okay, if you still can't hear me, come a bit closer. And like I said, my friends, this is probably the first church in the world. What do we mean by the first church? When did Christianity start? As an official.
After crucifixion.
After crucifixion, we had the followers. When did it become an official religion of the world? 4th century. Fantastic. You're right. After the resurrection, we have more and more followers. Can you hear me? More and more followers. But it becomes an official religion of the Roman Empire, which means it's the official religion pretty much everywhere in the world in the 4th century AD. Fantastic. Sorry. Guys, after Jesus was crucified, we have groups of followers starting to gather together and talk about the message that he was trying to pass on. These guys are Jewish people sitting together and talking about the messages, talking about the system of values that he was trying to pass on to us. What we have here in this church This is a 1990 church, so it's pretty modern.
1990 church.
Yes, pretty modern, but it's built on a Byzantine church from the 4th, 5th century. That is built on a little room that we call Domus Ecclesia, the holy room. And in that room, we have ruins from the 1st century AD. What I mean by ruins, it's not enough just to have rocks, because rocks doesn't give you a message of what was there. On the rocks, there was on that room from the 1st century that is under this layer that we found graffiti of crosses and words like Messiah, words like Yeshua in Hebrew. Graffiti not with spray, but with a carving on the rock. So we know that this was a place of gathering. This was a place that people were talking about the system that Jesus was talking about. What's the reason that we have this church built on top? Why do we have this that we see through the ruins? First of all, to preserve it, not to destroy something that has so much history. And second, we can almost see what was 5th century looked like. We're talking about 1,500 years back that we can see. So think about these people that started it here. Young men and women sitting together, maybe praying the same prayers that you guys pray in your mass and hoping for the same things you were hoping for 2,000 years ago, sitting in this room right here. In this room right here, we have incredible connection to a structure that is behind you. And you can see that structure, you can see the rocks over there. That is the structure that is still higher. And you can see the pillars of structure outside. That is one of the first synagogues in the world. So that's one of the first synagogues in the world. Probably the first church in the world. Everything together in a distance that you can see and you can walk. In the gap between these two structures, we have the village of Capernaum that we're going to see outside. Okay. Guys, what is this behind me? Synagogue. How do you know it's a synagogue, my love? He listens. The only way you guys will know it's a synagogue is because I said it to you guys before. Synagogues today looks different. I don't know if you ever went to a synagogue today, a modern synagogue inside, but it looks different. And do you have any idea what's different?
No, I agree.
I'm going to give you some information. First of all, there's a higher stage or a higher platform for the Torah, for the Bible that is being put on. I don't see any higher place. Second thing, today in the Orthodox synagogues, men and women are separated. So there's a place for the ladies that is apart. Can you see any place that is separated here? No, right? This is a synagogue. How do we know? First of all, because I said so. Second, because a synagogue in every old city is a main structure, and it's always higher than the other places. The village is right underneath the church and us. So when we walk back towards that way, I want you to see all the rocks that are underneath us. So first of all, we find a monumental place. Look at these pillars. Look at the place of it. It's in the city center. It's in the middle of the village, and it's high up. Not just that, but when we walked over here, friends, you saw. Who raised your hand if you saw the ruins of the houses here? Who saw it? Did you guys notice it? What is the color of the rocks? Just under there? Grave, right? Dark. Guys, this is limestone. Everything you see around you guys is dark. It's basalt rock, volcanic rock, lava rock. So we find a monumental structure that has limestone, which means it was imported here. It's not from here. Gives us another clue that this place was pretty special and pretty important for the people that lived here. When he comes to Capernaum, Jesus starts his way of preaching. He starts saying to people what he thinks. And one of the places where he starts his preaching is here, in this synagogue. Just like the church, my friends, the first ruins that we found under this floor in this synagogue are dated to which century? Even before, my love, the times of Jesus?
First
First.
century.
The second one?
Before.
Exactly, just like the church. 4th or 5th century is what we see here today. We know that this was a place of the synagogue in the 1st century. So if we're really trying to bring back to life, just imagine a crowd of audience sitting just like you are, and someone standing here, just like me, and talking about real new ideas, about how people should treat each other, about moral and ethics. Guys, at that time, a synagogue is not a religious place. It's not a religious function, just like your hermana said. Why? The temple is still in Jerusalem. It wasn't destroyed yet. It destroyed way after Jesus crucified. It's not a religious place. It's not a place of prayer. It's a place of gathering, a social place to sit together and to say, hey, how's the husband? How's the kids? How is work? Okay, I want to go over this text that I think has something in it. It's a place of gathering and learning together. In Capernaum, Jesus also did a lot of miracles that really took his actions one step up. From preaching, from talking, from the power of words to the power of God. So we have the two characters of Jesus here in this village. When Jesus is leaving Capernaum, what's his relationship with this place? You guys know? Is it good? Is it bad?
They didn't believe in him.
Oh, they didn't believe in him. Guys, we got a continuation. If the people of Nazareth didn't believe in him, he comes here to find some comfort with his best friends, his disciples. Peter, he stays in Peter's house. And when he starts preaching and doing the miracles, he gets the same reaction. Capernaum is one of 3 sites that Jesus is cursing when he leaves here. Bethsaida, Capernaum, and Chorazin. All of them are up here. And then he goes to Jerusalem, and his journey ends the way it is. So there's a love-hate relationship with this place. It's a very complex relationship that Jesus has with Capernaum. It's home, but it hurts very, very much when they don't trust him, like Tahir said. So he's cursing Capernaum at the end. I want to read one of the miracles that he did, and then we're going to move on. Can I have any volunteer to read? I promise you that my English skill readings are not as good as any of yours. Thank you, Tahir. This one. Thank you.
When Jesus returned to Capernaum, after some days, it became known that he was at home. Many gathered together so that there was no longer room for them, not even around the door. And he preached the word to them. They came, bringing to him paralytic, carried by 4 men, unable to get near Jesus because of the crowd. They opened up the roof above him. After they had broken through, they let down the man on which the paralytic was lying. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralytic, "Child, your sins are forgiven." Now some of the scribes were sitting there asking themselves, "Why does this man speak that way? He's blaspheming. Who but God alone can forgive sins?" Jesus immediately knew in his mind what they were thinking to themselves. So he said, "Why are you thinking such thing in your hearts? Which is easier, to say to the paralytic, 'Your sins are forgiven,' or to say, 'Rise, pick up your mat and walk'? But that you may know that the Son of Man has authority to forgive sins on earth. He said to the paralytic, I say to you, finish? Arise, pick up your mat, and go home.
Thank you. Good. Guys, this is just one of two miracles that are taking place here. We're going to walk around and continue to see the village. But if we really want to talk about, he's grown up, he's a young man, he leaves home, comes here, and this is where, like I said, things are changing. It's a step up, not preaching anymore, but doing miracles in front of people. Was the world ready for that? Apparently not. Pastor, is there anything you want to add here, or should we continue?
No. I think those who grew up in Sunday school also remember the time when, of course, the Jews of this place came to Jesus and said that, there's a man who's a centurion. He's a Gentile, he's not a Jew, but he's being good to the Jews, and he's built them a synagogue. And this man has a son, and not a son, a servant, who is ill, very sick. And Jesus said he would come to that man's house. To think that a Gentile, a centurion, a man who's over at least 100 soldiers, that's known as a centurion or more, would come to Jesus. And the man said to Jesus, I recognize that you have authority. And he said to Jesus, I'm a man of authority. If I say to one of my servants, come, they will come. If they go, they go. But I recognize that you have a higher authority. So don't even come to my house. Just speak the word, and my servant will be healed. It was in this era that happened. And that's an amazing thing, because that man was a Roman. In Rome had so many other gods, and yet still he recognized the authority and the power that Jesus had. And Jesus turned around and said these words. It says Jesus marveled, and he said, I have not found such faith in the whole of Israel. And it was not coming from a Jew, it was actually coming from a Gentile. Yeah, it was incredible. Yeah. Good.
Yeah. Let's continue, friends.
The site. And it kind of inspired me to give you food for thought for this place. I like to have food for thought. This place, if it's, Capernaum, this is exactly where he walked. We don't know, like Don said, that it's, we don't know. But all the signs make sense. We know that he was around fishermen. This is where the fish are. This place is really rich with hot water springs that brings a lot more fish, which means there's a lot of fishermen living here. We have a very, very monumental house, which probably was functioning as a place for people to gather. That dome was that first church. It's not coincidence we have graffiti carved on the rock from the 1st century. There must have been a group of people praying here, start practicing the way of Jesus from the 1st century. Whether it was really, really the first church, I believe that it was. Archaeology, all the signs are there, the story's there. Peter was living there with his brother and with his mother-in-law and some other people. We're looking for a bigger house than the rest of the houses in the village. Over here, it's a bigger house that is under that church. That makes sense as well. The synagogue, higher than any other building. Ignore the modern church. The other church is down there, 4th century. Look how high it is. How do we know else it's a synagogue? Another thing, look at all the pillars here. We're going to see some of them, they have the Star of David as well on them. The Star of David is the Jewish symbol. It was from there, we know it was a synagogue. For me, what's really, really special about this place, that probably in the 4th century, we have the first Domus Ecclesia, first church here in the 3rd century, and one of the first synagogues working at the same time. The roots and the continuation. And for me, it's mine. To have these two roots practicing things that born in the same place, but go in different branches. For me, that is beautiful, and look how calm and peaceful this place is. Just food for thought. I want to ask you guys, and I'm not looking for answers right now. You know, when Jesus was preaching here, he knew that some people are not going to like it. That takes a lot of courage. And he ended up being expelled from there as well. And I want to ask you, if there's an idea or a principle or a value in your life, or that could be not an idea, but a person that you'll go all the way for. He had that belief in his heart, and he knew the consequences, both in Nazareth, home, being expelled, coming here, finally maybe being welcomed, but not again being expelled. Will you go that far for an idea that you have in your life, for a value, for something you believe in? I'd like to think that I go all the way for my family. You know, that I will give everything to protect my family. I was never tested by it, thank God. But if I did, I don't know. If I have an ideal or an principle that I know I'll die for, I'll be willing to lose everything for, I'm not sure. And I'm being honest. Today, we're not really measured by these ideas anymore. We're not forced to check our ideals all the way. So I don't want you to be with this question. What are your red lines? What's the thing that you'll know that you believe in and you'll go a long distance for you to keep that ideal in your heart? Just a question. And with that, my friend, I'm going to go back to the coach and enjoy the AC over there.